Start here. Man, what a game that turned out to be last night.
It was. The Icy Hot Bowl ended up being hey, we'll hope we get a Super Bowl like that.
No doubt. It was really, really something. But I got to say this, and it really is an indictment of young quarterbacks. And now, Kelvin, this is the point I've been trying to make to you for a while. And I know you always talk about trying to identify your guy. I want Justin Fields, so I know I have a guy for the next few years and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason these 40-year-old guys are still out there and why teams are still willing to go this route. And we saw it on display. They can still play. They can play. They know how to read defenses. They know how to throw accurately. I mean, like if you're Justin Fields or some of these young quarterbacks where teams are looking and going, what? Joe Flacco. You can't stand Joe Flacco. You can't stand Aaron Rodgers. You're the anti-AARP guy in the NFL. That's who you are. And I've been telling you there's a reason. The Steelers lost. They gave up a million yards defensively, whatever, but Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns, gave them the lead with 2 minutes to go on a 68-yard bomb, whatever, and all that stuff. They still lost, but you get my point, is that having a veteran quarterback who can run a team, know what they're doing, is valuable. And half the teams in the league would give up those young guys for an experienced quarterback who can help them win now. I understand long term. We're not talking about the first overall pick and you're going to ride or die no matter how terrible he is. But there are a lot of teams with a lot of so-so, middle-of-the-road quarterbacks who just aren't as good as what we saw last night.
You know what Joe Flacco had before he joined the Bengals? 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Stop acting like that's Joe Namath or Joe Montana. Joe Flacco, Waka Flacco Flacco, was excellent last night. He has had a really good career. There's nothing negative to say. But to act like that was Joe Flacco 2 weeks ago in Cleveland, that wasn't that. And to act like Aaron Rodgers was the Aaron Rodgers we've known for all the years and with the Jets, it was not that, which leads me to my point of why I disagree with what you're saying. I think we've learned more than ever that we've always thought, and now I think we know, it's about where you land. Joe Flacco wasn't this high pick. He wasn't at some Ohio State, Alabama. He didn't go to one of the blue blood big schools, but people saw he was big, had a big arm, he could throw, and he gets drafted, and he lands with the Ravens, where he could be in a great situation where he can learn, where their defense was incredible. They had a great running game, and he was able to grow and mature under a well-run organization. Aaron Rodgers is incredibly talented, as we all know. That's why it was so mind-boggling he dropped so far, because everybody saw that. And he's just amazing, might be the top 1, 2, 3 most talented we've ever seen. And you know what he happened to do? He went to the Green Bay Packers, a wonderful organization where he can continue to grow, continue to learn, and then blossom and be great. My point is, I think some of these young guys fall in horrible situations.
All right, so where did Peyton Manning go? Where did Peyton Manning go? And throw 28 touchdowns his first year. I think that's the biggest cop-out, that the only way you could have success is you have to go to a good organization. The Cincinnati Bengals had lost 7 straight playoff games, and they couldn't win a playoff game to save their lives. Mm-hmm. And people said, Joe Burrow, don't go there. Tell the Bengals before they draft you that you don't want to play in Cincinnati. Hold out. Tell them you want to go somewhere else. And guess what? He went there and took them to a Super Bowl his second season. So
and
you can be a part of the solution.
I'm glad you did that. Part of the solution. Just named. You know what you just did? You named a Heisman candidate and Peyton, one of the all-time greats.
Yeah,
and
but
a Heisman
the Colts
winner.
weren't good.
No, what I'm saying is you literally named one of the top maybe 4 or 5 quarterbacks of all time.
No, but he went to a bad team. The Colts weren't good. That's why he went
Burrow,
there.
who was also a number 1 pick. My simple point is, I'm not saying that all quarterbacks are ever going to be good. Some quarterbacks are just going to be terrible, just like players in the NBA, just like some MLB guys will never cut it. That's an absolute fact. Some guys will never be good. Some guys are going to be great. My point is sometimes you can go to a situation that was not the best for you, where it was not a volatile situation. Coaches are fired. GMs doesn't know what he's doing. Doesn't have anything around you. And that's what you see. Joe Flacco went from an offense that doesn't know what they're doing and don't have guys around, per se, to now going to an offense that's loaded because they just signed a bunch of offensive players. So all I'm saying is situations can determine that. So I'm not going to say because the Icy Hot Bowl ended up being relatively entertaining and good that all of a sudden Joe Flacco is the man. And if you put him on any team, he's going to shine. We saw he did not with Cleveland.
No, but he can play is my point.
I don't disagree with
you
that.
missed the point is that you're the one waving the flag for Justin
Yes!
Fields because you think that it's better to have a guy that you're going to know for the next 4 years. No, I don't care about a younger guy for 4 years.
You missed the point, Rob.
No,
you
that's
missed
what you
the point.
Saying. I need to know who's going to be my guy.
That's the
and
point.
Build a guy for the next
and guess
couple
what
years.
we found
no,
out?
I don't need that.
No, guess
I need
what we
to
found
win
out, Rob?
tonight. I don't got to care about next year.
And guess what we
I need to
found
win
out?
about tonight.
Guess what we found out? We just found out Justin Fields ain't a guy. My point was play him. He's 4-2. See what you got. And if he's terrible, he's terrible. See what you got. Has always been my point to you. Joe Flacco, I literally know what Joe Flacco is.
Let
me see what Dylan Gabriel is.
They watch you in practice.
Let me see what Dylan Gabriel is.
You practice more than you play in the NFL.
I don't give a dang about that. We're talking about practice.
Yes,
practice.
We're
not talking about a
practice.
game. Not a game that I love. You're talking about practice. Dylan Gabriel, let me see if he's good. Shedeur Sanders, let me see if they're good. Joe Flacco is exactly what we thought about. A very capable, professional guy who I'm not going anywhere with. The Bengals ain't all of a sudden about to go to the Super Bowl, a deep playoff run.
That's not what this conversation was. You missed the whole point of it because that's not.
Nobody's
talking about a deep run. I'm talking about taking a quarterback that can play for you now. And that's what we saw.
And do what?
And what do you mean do what?
The
give
same
yourself
thing with
the
Russell
chance
Wilson.
To win.
What did you do with Russell Wilson?
No, give yourself a chance to win is what I'm trying to say to you. That's why these guys are still around.
I go 5-12, and I still don't know if I have a quarterback. And I'm looking for a quarterback again, Rob. That makes no sense.
That's why those guys are still
makes
playing.
No sense.
That's why they're playing. And
no, he's playing because Joe Burrow is injured.
No,
that's why he's playing.
I'm talking about old guys still in the league is what I'm talking about. Why Tom Brady played till he was 45.
All right, Rob. So Aaron Rodgers played well. Couple interceptions. One was kind of just
the one with
really
it.
He guy just wanted it more than Metcalf, which is interesting because Metcalf is swole, looks like a freaking Adonis.
And the Blue Jays have just tied the game 1-1 with a 2-out hit, George Springer, with the hit.
Yep, just saw that too. And then, but a couple of instances where Aaron Rodgers goes off on Warren, running back, lets him have it, goes off on a lineman who jumped on his back after a touchdown.
That one, if I was Mike Tomlin, I would have had a heart attack.
Listen.
300-pounder jumping at this guy, we're going to break my collarbone.
Bruh. Everybody kind of had an attitude where or at least let me say the question was, did Aaron Rodgers go too far, barking at people, yelling at people? I really didn't have a problem with that. When you got a leader of a team who's, a guy who's 20 years in and Super Bowl champ MVPs, and he has a certain expectation. His probably learning curve is way ahead of a lot of people, right? He's already knowing the offense, boom, snap, he's got it all. The only thing I'll say that the challenge with what he was doing, Rob, is sometimes this. It's not what he did. It's the rapport. Like, I've only been here for a couple of months. So, like, when guys don't necessarily know you, that could be an issue. But the idea of the leader of your team holding guys accountable, I don't have an issue with. And, again, 350-some-pound man jump on my back when I'm not looking at this age, we might have to scrap too. So I didn't have a real issue with some of his antics. I just think the reason why it became bigger is because he's on a new team. You get what I mean? If this was Green Bay 10 years ago, he'd have that rapport. He'd have that rapport with the teammates.
An Aaron Rodgers thing that anytime they get a chance to put him out there, he's a lightning rod. And you got to admit that. And that became from being on the
Pat
McAfee show. You know what I mean? That's when it kind of turned, and he became a conversation piece almost every day. Like, he's a quarterback. He's the quarterback of the team. Guys aren't pulling up, aren't doing what they're supposed to. He should react. If it's the other way around, I'd be like, does he even care? Like they're offsides or they did something that they weren't supposed to do. That's kind of his job. I didn't find it as being like condescending, and I'm talking about like it was show anybody up. It's like the game is going on. I'm the quarterback. I'm trying to get everybody to do their jobs and do their positions and what they're supposed to do as the leader of the team. So I just didn't have a problem with it at all.
No, I think, and I agree that maybe the Pat McAfee and kind of obviously we talked about this yesterday, the COVID and his stance on vaccines. I got the shot, I didn't get the shot.
Right,
all that good
right.
stuff.
That's definitely a part
rubbed
of
the people wrong.
Yeah.
But I will add, still, I do think the last 3 years we have seen him in now 2 different jerseys than our brain thinks of him. When we think of Aaron Rodgers, we think of him with the yellow, and the green and the cheese heads and all of that. So again, I think seeing him do that with guys we don't know, like meaning I don't know him to know him, I don't know them to have this connection, I think it makes it look different. If you have a thing with Alex and Rob G, y'all been doing this for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been. So you have that rapport. You can come on,
it feels
Alex,
longer.
man, come on. Right. 18 years is what I meant.
Right.
You and Elijah can have that. Man, come on, Elijah. He'll say, Rob, my bad. You'll say, my bad, I was tripping. You guys you have that rapport. You have that equity. I think it just looks, sometimes it makes people go, ooh, that didn't look right. Ooh, because you're seeing him do that as a Steeler, and we don't know the guys that he's doing it with because we don't associate them together. So I do think the new team, New Jersey, plays a role. Because if he was doing that to Greg Jennings, you wouldn't be as big of a deal because we know him to be with Greg Jennings, going to Super Bowls, and they're in that battle together. If Tom Brady goes to Amendola or Edelman or Gronk, they've been in those battles. If Patrick Mahomes come on to Travis Kelce, they've been in those battles.
Yeah.
So I think that does play a role where it's like the unfamiliar with him as now a Steeler. It's been 6, 7 weeks. Unfamiliar with him as the Jets in the beginning.
But
It's
we've seen other guys. That's why I've seen Tom Brady destroy iPads on the sideline. I've seen him yelling at people and carrying on. Right? We've seen it because
he's the poster child for it.
It's the heat of the moment, and Tom Brady but he has a certain standard. He's trying to get people to do what they need to do, and sometimes it's not physical. I always say, I get it. Like, even I remember we talked about this before with Tom Izzo. I'm okay with the yelling part. Once it gets physical, that's when I cringe, and I'm not sure well, I'm not sincere. I'm not sure. I'm positive that's not the way to do it.
Well, yeah, listen, we talked about this with the coach, Cardinals coach. Look, man, everybody's responses are different. And some guys, oh, man, okay, coach, my bad. Other guys, man, hey, you don't know their background. You don't know where they're from. You don't know nothing. And the idea that you would hit them, put your hands on them, you don't know their response. You might get a 2-piece and a biscuit. Bop, bop, bop. And now I'm the bad guy, even though you don't, hit me up, slap me up in my chest, punch me or whatever. So, yeah, you definitely keep your hands to yourself because, again, everybody's response is not necessarily going to be the same. Some people are okay with it, some people are not. Keeping your hands to yourself is always a wise choice.
No doubt. But that was some entertaining game. It really was. That was a good one for a Thursday night. We saw a lot of score, no defense. My God. I mean, what did the Steelers give up? 900 yards?
I know that's what's shocking because that's kind of how they've been.
But they had turned it around of late the last few games, and this looked like, week 1 against the Jets. You remember where the Jets had
defense, all that? Yeah, it's not how we're used to seeing. Even last year, their defense hasn't been what you've expected, and typically Jalen Ramsey didn't look great. He was getting cooked up.
He was getting cooked.
Now, again, that is a receiving duo. That is insane.
But I'm just saying, but the cover, I mean, what was that? That
he was getting cooked up. And he's kind of older, too. I mean, they signed some older guys. Darius Slay, ancient. Some of these guys are a little older up there, so we'll have to wait and see. Going back to the Icy Hot Bowl, to the AARP Bowl, one of the things I feel like flew a little bit under the radar was that Mike Tomlin, who's been a good coach, has had a great tenure with the Steelers, who is obviously somebody who is a leader of men, somebody who could play Omar Epps' older brother in a movie.
Only you would say that.
and you could also add to his legacy or his profile, his resume, that he might be a psychic or a prophet. Because this is what he had to say a few days ago. Roll that for me.
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feeling.
And he was spot on. I mean,
he was a prophet. He was a psychic. He was, what was her name? Miss Cleo. He's Miss Cleo's brother. Man, he saw this coming, and I felt like, wow, like he saw this. The Cleveland Browns, obviously, we don't know what they're doing there. They don't know what they're doing. They were paying 5-6 quarterbacks, and they decided to go I get it. They got some draft collateral for Joe Flacco, but they thought highly enough of him to start him, to make him their game one starter. And he's had, obviously, success throughout this NFL, even won them a postseason game not too long ago. So, fine, he decides to start, not playing well, and they give him to the Bengals, who are hurting. Browning isn't playing well, but you still got this talented roster offensively. And if you're Mike Tomlin, you got Aaron Rodgers playing some solid football. You're feeling like the division is ours. Lamar Jackson's out for who knows how long indefinitely. The division can be ours. The last thing you need is a solid veteran quarterback coming to with some offensive weapons he's never had the likes of, like a T. Higgins, like a Jamar Chase.
But their
defense
hasn't improved.
Without a doubt.
I mean,
but
let's not make it. I agree with Mike Tomlin from the standpoint of like Mike Tomlin's not going, oh my God, they just turned the division over to the Bengals because they got Joe Flacco. I don't think that's what he's saying.
No, what he's saying is why help our division unless you're doing some hateration type stuff, unless you're being petty wop and you're coming for me or us, the Steelers. That's what he's saying. Because it's not as if Joe Flacco's Joe Montana or this is 2014 Joe Flacco. More or less what he's saying is you're giving them a guy who's still good enough, so much so he was your week one starter.
I agree. It doesn't make sense. Like,
so what do you think? I believe they're saying, well, dang it, our season is going down. We clearly know that. We're about to ride these rookies, Dylan, Gabriel, who knows, 3, 4, 5 games. Maybe it should do it. We'll find out. This is our season. We know that. We're shot. Our season is shot in the foot. It's over. But if we can bring you down with us, dang it, that's what we're going to do. We can bring down one of our rivals.
I don't believe that was the reason. They wanted draft capital because he wasn't going to play anymore, and they figured they were going to throw the towel in on the season. But I'm surprised that they wouldn't have looked elsewhere to see if there was anybody else. Now, maybe, and I'm just speculating, that at the time when they were ready to make the move, that there was nobody else looking for Joe Flacco. Do you know what I mean? And there wasn't another viable candidate. If I'm a reporter in that press conference, I would have said, well, if there was no other trading partner, right, you were in that situation, would you have not traded him? Would you have just held on to him even though you don't expect him to play anymore for you? Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know where the other circumstance or scenario to be able to say that was their only that they had more than one option and they chose that option trying to hurt the Steelers. I don't believe that that's the case.
I do. I think they're trying to bring down a division rival who has been obviously one of the, continues to be at least 500 or make the postseason for year after year. And I think they know the Bengals aren't going to be too much this year. They might win a handful of games more, obviously, without Joe Burrow. But I think they said if we can spike the Steelers a little bit, why not? Because also, we talked about this. There aren't 32 good quarterbacks. We know that. So their Fandango sure is not 64. So I feel like, and we got injuries all over the field. Remember, me and you were talking about after week 1 or 2, how many teams were starting backups. So backups are valuable, especially a guy like a Joe Flacco. I feel like you could have gotten something for him elsewhere. Like someone needs a backup like a Joe Flacco. No, but you would have to show me. But I don't think that. I'm just going based off logic.
Yeah, but
there aren't 64 quarterbacks better than him, and there are teams who need backups.
But I don't think that at that point someone's looking to give up something for Joe Flacco as a backup, as a starting quarterback because your quarterback was hurt.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Having a valuable guy who can do exactly what he's doing now, come in and start, be there. I just found it to be Freudian. Nostradamus, Moses, a prophet, something for him to say that, and then Joe Flacco would come out. And it's not like he won. Say he won on the strength of the running game, or he won on the strength of just 5 interceptions from Aaron Rodgers, just a horrible game. They won because he threw 40, 50 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he looked amazing. And I just find that to be hilarious that Mike Tomlin called this out, and it's exactly what happened to him. Joe Flacco coming back and burning that team.
Yeah, normally you just don't. You normally don't trade within your division if you can help it. But
Yeah,
we've seen
that's so rare.
We've seen it more and more, even in baseball, where people make trades that they never used to make. So it's interesting.
All right, Rob, so they're watching us right now, which means another thing they can do is what?
They can subscribe. All you got to do is hit that button, subscribe to The Odd Couple for some of the best sports talk content in the nation.
Facts, and while you're at it, they can like, they can comment, they can share. Do all that for us. We appreciate it. Just do all that right up in here.